Good afternoon, children. So, welcome to our again another session of geography. Today, we will be completing the first part of the first chapter, resource and development. Now, so far, we have studied different aspects of resources. Now, conservation of resources. We all have studied that resource is very necessary for the development of any country and society. But when we consume it in excessive amount, that is when we have irrational consumption of different resources, whether it is natural resources or it is man-made resources, we lead to the exhaustion or depletion or finishing of the resources, and this again leads to different kinds of environmental damage and socio-economic disparity in the world. That is, some countries become rich, some countries become poor. There is ending up or finishing up of the resources, and there is different kinds of environmental problems like global warming, ozone layer depletion, water table depletion. So this leads to the concept of conservation or preservation of resources. Now, Gandhiji was very much vocal about this thing, about this concept, that is conservation of resources. And according to Gandhiji, he felt that this world has enough resources for everybody's need, but not for anybody's greed. Because when we become greedy, then we consume more and more. But when we consume according to whatever our present requirement, then the resources are preserved and conserved. So Gandhiji's view is that the root cause, that is the main cause of finishing up of the resources at the global level, is mainly due to two factors. One, greedy and selfish individuals or societies or countries. Because when you become greedy, you start hoarding up wealth. And the next factor which he felt was responsible for the finishing up of the resources was the use of modern technology. When we have modern technology, we use more and more without thinking of conserving and preserving it for the coming generations. So Gandhiji felt that the finishing up or the resource depletion at the global level mainly happens due to the greedy and selfish activities of individuals or countries or societies, and due to the use of modern technology. He was against this mass production. Now, mass production takes place in factories where machines are used. So when machines are doing the work, that means the human beings will be unemployed. So he was always against mass production, because India at that time had a huge population, but in India capital was less and labor was more. So employment generation was very, very necessary. So he did not want that production will be in the factory, but he wanted production by masses, that is people, so that the cottage industries of our country could flourish. He did not want factory production, he wanted the cottage industry to flourish. So he was against mass production but wanted production by masses. Now, for this resource conservation, there was a wide awareness. Now, this led to publications of different books, different journals, different reports. So, the first publication that advocated this resource conservation was the Club of Rome. Now, this Club of Rome came out with the first publication, which was published in the year 1968. The second one was in 1974. It was a book by a German named Schumacher, and the book was Small is Beautiful. Now, this Small is Beautiful book reflects Gandhiji's philosophy of resource conservation. In 1987, a report was published by this Prime Minister of Norway, whose name was Brundtland, and Brundtland report came to be known as Brundtland Commission report in 1987, and officially Brundtland introduced the concept of sustainable development in 1987. Later on, a book was published, Our Common Future, and this book also advocated the philosophy of sustainable development and resource conservation. Finally, in 1992, we have the report of the first Earth Summit, which was held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and subsequently every year Earth Summits were held, and all these Earth Summits had presented their report on conservation of resources and preservation of the ecology and preservation of biological diversity in the world. Now let us come to the notes of what we have studied today. First, we studied that the resource leads to development in the country and society, but irrational consumption of resources causes socio-economic and environmental problems. Next, we studied about the Gandhiji's view on resource conservation. Now, Gandhiji's view on resource conservation was that he felt that resource depletion at global level was mainly due to two factors. First, greedy and selfish individuals, society or country. The other factor was modern technology that is used to exploit the resources. He was against mass production, that is factory production, and wanted production by masses, that is people. Now the publications on resource conservation. The first publication came out in 1968, which was advocated by Club of Rome. The second publication was in 1974, that is Small is Beautiful by Schumacher, which reflects Gandhiji's philosophy. The third publication was in 1987, which was Brundtland Commission report that introduced the concept of sustainable development. Another publication was Our Common Future, which is a book on sustainable development and resource conservation. We do not have the year here. And in 1992, a report was presented at the Earth Summit, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. These were the main publications on resource conservation. Now, the homework for today. What you have to do, we have to compile your notes, whatever you have got so far, and prepare the portion completed so far for online test. So this first part of resource and development, this portion will be for your online test.